You were one of your family, one of the original AIM members,
Yes,
correct?
first generation AIM baby. Original AIM kid, they call me. My mom was National Secretary of American Indian movement from the start of AIM until her death in 2007.
Now, were you here when they came here to Wounded Knee to have that meeting? Then everything went from there. Or did it
I
come
was here
later?
a couple days later. I traveled from Sioux City, Iowa with Russell Means' mother, Theodora Means. And we traveled here with my mom and Theodora Means. And I was telling the other gentleman that we had a hard time. This is what I recall, is we had a hard time getting gas because of the Means name. She had a standard credit card. So we used to have to go to churches to try to get the priests or ministers to take us to a gas station to get gas. Half of them did, and half of them said they'd call the cops and throw us in jail. So it was a hostile time for us, and in hard traveling. It took us a long time to get here due to the gas issue and not being able to be served at these gas stations throughout South Dakota.
The atmosphere here. Now, can you give people an idea of what it is? A lot of the old guys are gone now, so the younger people they don't really know what it was like. Could you give us an idea of what the atmosphere was like on Pine Ridge?
40 years ago, it was a very dangerous situation because we not only had the federal government coming down on us, we had goon squad from Pine Ridge that was also after the American Indian movement. So when we were here, we knew that we probably could die, and our saying in American Indian movement is today's a good day to die. So when we were here in Pine Ridge in '73 in Wounded Knee, we were ready to die to be able to save our Indianness and save the reservation boundaries from going down and saving our religious ceremonies. So it was well worth it, but it was a dangerous situation.
Now,
we had tanks
how old
around
were you
us.
then?
I was 16 years old.
So I was a year older than you then.
I was 16 years old.
How did the occupation start? How did it snowball into an occupation? Because initially it wasn't.
Here again, it was because of what the Indian tribes were facing throughout the country, possible termination, and we didn't have our religious rights and religious freedoms, and it was just time for us to step up to the plate. We had great leadership. We still do today. As I said, I'm first generation AIM baby, so I come from that same mentality, so it's full steam ahead, and we're going to still keep fighting.
Okay, now that's the thing, is that it's got to get passed on. If you
bet.
don't pass it on, the dream dies, people die.
Yes.
So how do you make sure you're going to pass this on to younger generations? Because I don't know. In Rapid City, the urban Native Americans, I don't see what you see.
We live our Indian ways. That's a way of life. So we live that every day, and we teach our kids that from a young age. During the Wounded Knee times, and even times before with Raymond Yellow Thunder in 1971, those were very trying times for Indian Native people, and it was important for us. We had little bitty babies and little people at our events all the time, you know, and I was one that wasn't that little, but I grew up in the movement, you know, and just knowing right from wrong, that everybody should be accepted and treated right, is kind of a no-brainer. So, you know, to fight to be who we are as Indian people, it was really baffling to me at the beginning, because I thought, wow, why do I have to fight to practice my religious ceremonies? Why do I have to fight to speak my language? Why do I have to fight to be Native? So the mentality 40 years ago was really rough for Native people. And I credit that siege in the American Indian movement for the Native programs that exist today throughout Indian country. We actually, due to that movement and stuff, we have saved these Indian programs, and so it's helped our reservations and off-reservation Indians tremendously. So American Indian movement did a lot of change and still making change, but
Now,
the first
today,
10 years was rugged.
Is it not so much a fight today as it is just a monitoring to make sure that there's no backsliding? Because there always is.
I think there's still a fight. There's still a fight for us to be who we are. As you know, I never heard anything in high school. I lived in the urban area about Wounded Knee and the mass Holocaust of our people. I learned that at home from my parents. I think until we get the history right in this country and our people can feel good about who we are, I think nothing will ever change. So I think there's a lot of education and information that still needs to be shared. I think there needs to be a lot of acceptance. What I'm fearful most is that people have a mindset already and they teach their kids that same mindset. So we're fighting that, so the fight still continues.
My name is Chief Robert Pedro Crodog. That's RobertPedrocrowdog. My Indian name is Wiak Ayamani. I was the one who was born here in Wounded Knee in 1973 during the occupation of Wounded Knee. I am the son of Chief Leonard Crodog Sr. and the son of Lakota woman, aka Mary Bravebird. And I'm very proud to be here today and represent my people and help to represent American Indian movement. And this day is a holy day today. Aho mitakuye oyasin.
Is that one of those things that you love? You gotta love the fact that you were actually born in the middle of an uprising. You gotta love that.
Yes. I was born knowing who my enemies were from the very start of my birth. The United States government surrounded us and we're fighting for Native American rights. And to this day, they still remember everything that has took place. And we have more Native American civil rights than we have ever had before 1973.
Now, new generations, as they get going, now there's a lot different, things are different than they used to be as far as people who are involved in AIM. Is that correct?
Yes, there is way more involvement. More people are becoming connected through the websites, through the internet, through these rallies and vigils for Leonard Peltier, for all incarcerated political prisoners. And we're gathering here today to commemorate this 40th anniversary, and it's very wonderful to be here.
Okay. My name is Herb Powless, Powless. I'm from Oneida, Wisconsin, and I was here 40 years ago when Wounded Knee took place.
Tell us a little bit about what the atmosphere was like when you were here.
Well, right before that, in '71, we took over Gordon, Nebraska, down here in Nebraska because of them murdering Raymond Yellow Thunder. And then in Custer in '72, BIA building in October '72 in Washington, D.C. All those things were coming to a head that eventually took place here September 27, 1973, of what took place in America since 1492, all right? Indian people losing their land, put on reservations, murdered, shot, killed, exterminated. So all this was coming to a head. So if you lived in those days, and I did, certain amount, because I'm 76 years old, you find out that what was taking place happened, and it happened like today, right today. You go to my reservation, Oneida, Wisconsin. I grew up in a little shack like you see all around here. Today, we build homes for our residents, 3 and 4 bedroom homes. We have a casino. We have a $400 million budget in my little reservation, all because the American Indian movement. Now they came here, brought justice to some of the people, brought out the corruption of America, government with tribal people that they've always done for many years, but brought hope and light to the Indian people, the young children going to school. In my tribe, we educate our people to go to school. We pay them to go get graduate degrees, doctors, lawyers. My niece just got her doctorate not too long ago. We do that now, but that didn't happen prior to all these years before AIM came on the scene and helped change the life of American Indians, give them hope.
Was it an awakening, not just for Native Americans, but also for America?
But it did. We for 71 days, this place right here held the attention of the world. On the world news every night. AIM Indians fighting here. They had the National Guard. They had the United Marshal Services. They had those like Amtraks. Every night there's flares going off, just like in a war, tracer bullets flying. This was a war zone right here in America. They never printed or tell about it in the history books, though, of the Indian people, where in 1890 they lined up 390 of them and machine gunned them to death, men, women, and children, and they gave out 26 Medal of Honor medals to these army guys that killed these unarmed Indians. Can you imagine that? Your government American government gave the 26 Medal of Honors to a bunch of Army guys that killed unarmed men, women, and children.
Let's talk a little bit about the atmosphere that brought AIM here. There was already a civil rights movement in this community, but the problems they had then, the reasons for the unrest then, they're still here.
Well,
Unemployment,
right. Well,
poverty.
I was telling a guy today, I said, you know, Pine Ridge is the second largest reservation in the United States. It's also one of the most poorest in the United States. Poorest county in the United States. They talk about blacks being poor and down in Alabama or Chicago. This is poorer than poor. What is it, 90 miles one way, 100 miles the other way? There's nothing, no business, nothing. It's zero.
Does that kind of bother you that
Bothered me. It bothered the whole world.
40 years afterward, it's
worse. And that's America. They're spending billions and billions in the Mideast.
How can we get our young people here to be motivated to change that finally? I mean, 4 decades is too long for this.
Hey, look, this has been happening since 1492 when you came over here. And this was they needed to do this in order to pacify, eventually take and rape the whole country, which you done in, not only here in Africa and South America. Okay, that's part of what the white man does. That's in our way, see, in my understanding of how I believe. And see, we have a history in our culture about the 4 races of mankind, okay, black, white, red, and yellow. And part of it, and I'm not saying it's totally true, but I know most of it's true, the white man is depicted as being the devil. Okay, you get into the Arabic world and all that, you'll see they condemn the white man as being the devil, okay?
There's 3 miles out yet.